You know, there is nothing important and good and great than to be told whether you are heading on the right direction. I know you're working as much as you can. And if you can get a little bit of the true information about yourself, that will actually help you to even work more harder to achieve your goal. And guess what? Today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 signs that you're surely going to be rich one day. Because if you don't even know whether you're doing it in the right way, and check it out. And by the way, these 5 signs, actually the 5th one is truly the true sign that surely tells you indeed you're the right track into achieving that what we call the financial freedom. All right, so let's get into the business. But don't forget this: I am Joseph. I talk about finance, anything related to money. Okay, I'm literally this guy who comes up and tell you, hey, do this or the other, because this one will actually help you. And I actually post a video each and every day. So if you don't want to miss any of my good videos, this is what we do. You have ever heard me telling you subscribe? That is exactly. Down below there is a small button written subscribe. Hit that magical button, turn the notification bell, and guess what? I'm giving this information for free. All what I need you to do is to like this video. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just hit that like button. That's all. We get started. Let's get into the business. Now, the very first sign that you're supposed to know or ought to have, or actually tells you that surely gonna be rich for you and gonna be good for you, we call it a sign called you have ability of what? Adaptability. Adaptability. You see, if you have this sign deep inside of you, you are able, let me tell you one secret. Right now, as we speak, there is a rise of cost of living. Almost everything is skyrocketing, starting all the way from petroleum products to foods to accommodations to anything and everything, all right? So the ability of you to adapt as the tides changes, that actually is a very big sign that actually is gonna be good for you or with you. What do I mean by adaptability? For example, let me ask a question. Let's say right now you earn, let's say 50,000 at the end of the month, and then your salary has not increased, but the expenses are rising. So like, what exactly do you do? How do you handle that? Then that means you have to actually go check on how or what you usually use and how you utilize your money. All right. Remember one thing: the 50,000 remains constant. The cost of living is actually rising. So now you change in your lifestyle. Where can you adjust? Either shift from where you live to a bit of accommodative area, or how much you usually use in terms of you going out. How much do you save? Increase the basket of saving and the investing at the same time. So you're able to adjust yourself and adapt. But if you're rigid guy, you're not flexible, you're a rigid guy, you want to maintain the status quo, you want to live the same lifestyle, you want to be doing exactly what you've been doing before the cost of living actually risen, you still want to do the same, it's gonna be very, very hard for you to actually go out there and surely become rich. Remember one thing: rich, we usually define rich as what we call excessive of what you need. So the only way you can have an excessive of what you need, then it means that you're actually going out there and rich. And let me tell you one secret: the term rich is actually we call it's a subjective term which means differently from different people. So the ability of you to adapt with the environment, then that tells you owe or you have the signs that are actually there for you to become wealthy. All right, I really hope I made sense. Okay, if I did, then tell me on the comment section if I'm making sense. Okay, that's the first sign. And the sign number 2 is supposed to have what we call a goal oriented. You must have what? A goal or what? Oriented. You must be oriented. You must have a goal. You must have a target. And this one I know is not really a big deal to most of the people, because right now if I pull you out of the crowd and tell you, hey, what are you aiming to get? You definitely know what you want. You definitely know, hey, guess what? In 2 years' time, I want to buy myself a car. In 3 years' time, I want to build myself a home. In 4 years' time, I want to invest. In 3 years' time, you at least know what you want. You're goal oriented. And the problem is not just having a goal, it's actually towards actually achieving that goal that you're actually aiming to get. So most of the people who possess the signs of becoming wealthy in future, they usually have that signs of goal oriented. And these are the people, they will not only have goal, but you're doing what? You have what we call the discipline inside of it to achieving that goal. If your goal says that you must save 3,000 each and every day for the sake of the next 1 year, you'll be able to achieve that amount of money that you want to buy that car or buy that piece of land or invest, then it means you're gonna do anything that is capable or you must do for you to at least be able to do what? To achieve that specific goal. So it means that you're goal oriented. You ought to do that thing no matter what along the way, so that at least you can be able to do what? Achieve that specific goal. Okay, so now that is just but a second sign that tells you, hey, you are heading on the right direction. It's like, can you imagine? I always love to give this analogy when it comes to goal oriented. If I ask you today, now let's go to Mombasa. Let's say it's your first time showing up in Kenya. You've never even know where is Mombasa. Probably the very first question you'll ask me, and I'm telling you, and I tell you, you're gonna do the driving. You don't even know, you're gonna ask me now, where is the way to actually going to Mombasa? Okay, because definitely you do not know the route. So having the goal, knowing where you're going is not an issue, but having the plan to go there, that's where the issue is. Okay, now that's what we say. If you're goal-oriented, you're gonna be able to incorporate the discipline, sacrifice if it's needed, all of which I believe it's needed for you to achieve that what you've been aiming. All right, so let's go to the point number 3. We say you are what? You are a risk taker, or you are risk what? You are a risk taker. Let me tell you one secret. Most of the people whom you find that they are actually rich, they must have incorporated some sort of a risk deep inside of their life. That's what you're supposed to understand, all right? Meaning that you have to have that aspect of you having that, I always tell people you ought to have 2 characteristics for you to be an entrepreneur. Number 1, you ought to be crazy, okay? You ought to be crazy, and number 2, you ought to be a risk taker. When I say crazy, I don't mean like insanely crazy, meaning like you're out of your senses or something. No, I mean when you're crazy, that is according to the majority of people how they are seeing you. It means that you're doing things differently. Sometimes they confuse it with you being rude. You see, whenever you tell somebody, hey, I can't do that, they say, hey, why are you so rude? You're supposed to be accommodative. You're very callous, all those kind of things. So it means that you ought to be crazy and also be a risk taker. You see, let me tell you one secret. I always tell people, if you are fear to lose money, it's actually way more than the urge of making it, then you do not have any business being in business. You have to have that thing called the self-driven thing that emanates from deep inside. Can you imagine this? Those guys, and I always love to give this example. Can you imagine these guys who usually import things from China, and you said like 2 million, 3, 10, or 15 million. Maybe you want to import a full container of something, and probably you've never met these guys, but you just have that deep inside of you that is you can be able to send 10 million out there and wait for that, we call it mzigo, or that container, for you to actually do your business. So then it means that, obviously I mean, like, don't just wake up in the morning because Joseph said you have to be a risk taker and send anyone money randomly just like that. No, you must ought to have what we call the calculative risks. Can't just wake up in the morning and do any risk, just you want to be perceived as if you're a risk taker. See, a risk taker is when you actually go out there, you see an opportunity, you go put your business out there, and then at the end of the day, you can be able to achieve something. And in most cases, you find if you are a risk taker, in most cases, it's driven by what we call the hope and faith and belief. Okay, the other thing that drives the risk taker is also the urge of making that specific thing. You want to get into the business, okay? Then it means like, hey, you're aiming forward into actually providing a nesting area for this money for you to do what? To actually go ahead and make more of it. See, I always tell you, and never forget to tell you this, money love to make babies. Just view money. Money, by the way, let me tell you one thing. As far as you think that money is not living, money is very living. It's very spiritual, all right? And the way we usually love to make families, we come together, we husband and wife, you make babies and all those kind of things. Even money love that kind of a thing. But now, if you contextualize that in analogy, it's like investing. And I always tell people that money that you get out of your salary is usually called the parent money. You ought to take that parent money, make sure that you provide a very nesting area for you to have the baby money, aka passive income, for the continuation of that generation of money. So the problem we do is that we eat all our babies, we eat all the parent money. And for example, if you go back home when we were being brought up in the up countries, you realize that we used to have the cockerels and the hens and what have you, and we used to say, hey, even if you were to eat all the cockerels, make sure that you leave one for the purposes of what? The propagation of that generation. Now the problem that you do is that you take the parent money, gobble down all the money, and then you act surprisingly when you don't see the generation of it. Come on, these things is actually very simple as that. But did I say it's simple? No, I know it's always easier said than done. Okay, but the problem is this: most of the people, they're not ready to count the cost, pay their price, and also incorporate the discipline sacrifice for them to achieve exactly that. Remember what I told you guys, you can never control luck in your life, okay? But you can control your discipline. You can control the hard work deep inside of you. Because remember one thing, success is always an intersection between 2 things. Success, or rather the luck, and also the hard work. You can't control luck, okay? Now, let's go to the third one, or the fourth one, rather. The fourth one is you have to be what? You have to be firm, and also you have to be disciplined. Meaning, this one actually goes hand in hand with the risk-taking, and also meaning that your adaptability, and also you have to be what? Goal-oriented. Meaning, this actually kind of marries everything here. Why? Meaning that you ought to have something that is called firm discipline. Have you met somebody who because, and by the way, I don't know whether you can attest to this. Most of the people, they usually say, hey, guess what? I think rich people are mean. I think they are frugal. They can't help you and all those kind of things. You see, if a rich person decides that this amount of money goes towards doing things, no matter what you do, you cannot twist them. They focus to that. They have to achieve that. They do it. For example, there was a time I was interacting with one wealthy individual, and he was starting quite a funny kind of a business, meaning it's not like a popular business. And I was asking him, okay, fine, you want to start that business, then what is it motivating you to start this business? I've never seen it around and all those kind of things. And the guy could give you like hundreds of reasons why that business will actually work. And guess what? 2 years down the line, well, we weren't that close again, but guess what? The business was actually thriving. The guy saw something that was way different from the majority of the people, and he was actually attached to that. And you cannot even twist him, even if you try to sell him the idea of, hey, there is no money, you can't make this and all those kind of things. For example, right now as we speak, yeah, I know majority of the people are complaining about the economy and whatever. There are people, even if you try as much as you can, even if you go to the rooftop and shout, they will never buy that idea that there is no money. They always subscribe and believe there is money and it is in plenty. And so I do believe that, and you ought to believe exactly that. All right? So how about we go to the main one now, that one that you've been waiting, the fifth point. And guess which one is it? You must have what we call the hunger for knowledge. Hunger for what? For knowledge. Let me tell you one secret. Let me tell you one secret. If there is one factor that you ought to have for you to be wealthy and rich, and if you possess this kind of a thing, I am telling you, you have the hunger for knowledge and you have all the recipe required for you to be wealthy in life. There are some people who usually come here to watch my videos each and every day when I post them. Let me tell you one secret. You may not realize an instant change. You may not realize something called like, hey, something changed abruptly in my life. But guess what? At the end of the day, a time will come when you be what? I remember very well, I used to, write down before I even become a content creator about the finance and what have you. I remember I used even to write down business plans. I remember I used even to watch, big people, these people talk about finance things and what have you. And then sometimes I could even ask myself, why am I even watching this? Because every time I could just access the internet, I used to feel stupid. Every time I open the internet, I used to feel stupid. Because the moment I come up a new thing, I used to feel fulfillment deep inside of me. Fulfillment deep inside of me. If you can be able to consume what we call infotainment, okay? Infotainment meaning something that is informing you at the same time it is entertaining you, all right? Because obviously we ought to have some sort of an element of entertainment deep inside of ourselves as a human being. So if you can possess this thing, hunger for, you see, when I say hunger for knowledge, I mean like, you see, most of the people, have you ever asked yourself, why do comedy videos usually attract a lot of views? Because most of the people, larger percentage of the population on earth, they're never serious. They just want to be happy. They feed their emotions. But if you can twist it and feed your brain, feed your understanding, feed your logic, feed your all those things, I am telling you, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Keep on possessing that knowledge. If you want to know about financial literacy, investing, knowing about shares, knowing about treasury bills, even if it's way above your power, sometimes I could even think about businesses that I could not even achieve at that particular time. So it is good you possess the knowledge. It's good you have that hunger, you have that self-driven thing. And I am telling you, I will repeat again and again. You may not be able to see the results today, even tomorrow, even next month, but I'm telling you, a whole change of mind shift will actually in return be able to make you, be like, wow, I didn't even see life in this perspective and all those kind of things. That is the main thing that you ought to have if you want to get yourself into the rich area. And guess what? If you have it, congratulations. That is one of the biggest recipe that you ought to have. And guess what? You can just add another one like, you ought to be resilient about life, adaptability, all those things I said and all those kind of things, okay? So the point is this, that is such an actual combination of 5 things that you ought to have for you to actually signify and note it down. And hey, guess what? You can rubber stamp it. I am on my way to becoming wealthy. Don't forget this. My number is always on the description of this video. I know some people usually ask me on the comment section, they just if like to talk to you, where is your number? Hey, listen. And I know some of you don't even watch videos to the end. And if you've managed, my video, or rather my number is on the description down below there. If you click on more, you'll be able to get my number. Let's talk about business, let's talk about investment, and anything related to exactly that. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.